it sucked. So for different reasons. So an old friend of mine that I went to school with, so I started undergrad in 97, she started in 98, so I've known her for 28 years. And she comes out all like gangbusters, like, oh, you got to come down for my nephew's graduation. This is in Killeen, Texas. So we stayed like in Temple/Belton, Texas. Not too far from the Triangle, like a couple hours from, or like maybe like an hour and a half from Austin, and a couple hours from like Fort Worth, Dallas. And right off the jump, so as usually happens, my flight was like delayed, but it was delayed by like a half hour. So, and usually when planes are on time, or even when they're late, they tend to get a little bit, they tend to arrive a little bit early, as long as there's no like detours or turbulence or anything like that. So it was more or less on the same time that was like on my itinerary. And my friend left me, like literally. Now there is some subtext. So she's like one of those people that gets very like high strung and annoyed if people like complain or if they're riding her, whatever, whether it's her fault or not. So she rented a car, like a Nissan Rogue, like the one that I rented that time when I made the run to the to Logan Airport. And it was her and her mom. So coming from Boise, Idaho, this is the same friend that when I was on my road trip and I was supposed to go to Boise, Idaho, she like dipped out on me. And then the same friend, like 8 years ago with my ex when we were out in San Francisco, and we were visiting like Stanford because that's where my ex went, and wherever else. But I was supposed to meet her, and she's like, "Oh, no one will stop me from seeing my best friend," and all this, da da da. And of course, once I got there, it was like a different vibe, like, just have fun. If we're not able to see each other, don't worry, da da da, whatever. So, and there's at least another couple times too associated with like Philly or wherever else. So it's happened. This was more on a grander scale because Texas is a big state. So for them, like kind of like down the road is like not really down the road by like New England standards. So I'm in Austin, and then I'm like, all right, so where are you? We'll just call her R. And I call her, no answer. And I call her again. I think there was no answer. And she calls me back. Mouth just full of like, it's like an old Jamaican saying, if a Jamaican says somebody's mouth is full, that means it's full of like excuses and lies or whatever. And like I get it, right? So it's her and her mom, who's functionally disabled at this point. I won't get all in their business or whatever. It was nice to see her though. And she came with two of her friends, so the mother of the graduate. So like her nephew is not really her nephew. She's like an only child pretty much. But like she has like, how like black folk, like when I say black folk, I mean like African Americans have like a lot of like play cousins and stuff. Like when I say somebody's my cousin, they're actually my cousin. I have no issue with it because I was raised kind of like African American in a lot of ways, even though I'm 100% Jamaican. So whatever, it's like her play cousin, but like, her cousin. And she considers her son like, her nephew. So she came down with her young daughter, who was like probably like 4, and then her best friend, who's, it doesn't matter how old she is, I don't know, 40 or whatever. But so that's 4 people between them, but one of them's a baby, right? So she can just sit on somebody's lap. And me. Now, with the previous agreement, if you will, we're all gonna kind of like stay together because we're going to the same hotel. So whatever, she left me. Now the thing is, I'm stuck at like Austin Airport. I'm kind of trying to ask around because I don't really know where I am. I have Lyft, the Lyft app or whatever, but it's like it's too far to use a Lyft really, even though I ended up having to use one. It's like 70 miles away. So like, you can do the math. We're talking at that point like $120 or something like that. So, I try to like leverage their bus system, which is actually pretty decent, but it doesn't really get me any closer. I call like the bus station, like their switchboard or whatever, and the lady, obviously she knows what she's saying. And I go to like their train station. She's like, you need to go from the red line to the blue line, da da da. And I'm like, to me, the red line is like in Fields Corner in Boston, like, in Dorchester. I don't know what you're talking about or whatever. And then I was like, at this point, I was already like a couple hours into like my just meandering way of trying to get back to the Holiday Inn that I stayed at. And I was just like, F it. I'm just going to, I'm just going to take a Lyft and eat the cost. And then, of course, the Lyft is coming and my phone runs out of charge. Now, it's a good thing, obviously, in the description, I was paying attention. I paid attention to the car and the person, so I was able to just kind of visually flag them down, because I literally, my phone dies, and I was working a couple days, so I had my laptop with me, and I was literally about to charge, with my like USB-C or whatever, charge up my phone via my laptop, so battery to battery. And just as I was doing that, I think it was like whatever the Kia minivan is, Carnival or something like that, pulled up, and then I spotted them with my eyes, just manually. And as you know, everything's bigger in Texas, so I easily could have missed it. The streets are bigger, everything, and whatever. So we have a good old ride back. We actually have a pretty decent conversation with the lady giving me a ride and stuff. But it's expensive, and like my pockets are just like a sieve. Like the money's just like, I'm just hemorrhaging money, not to mix metaphors. So I get back there to the Holiday Inn. I had booked a Holiday Inn from the link that she sent me, because like, we all wanted to stay in the same place. It turns out Temple has 2 Holiday Inns, because like, cities in Texas, like regardless of population, they have more urban sprawl because there's just so much land. So they actually have 2 Holiday Inns in the same city, and they booked me the wrong one. So I was at a Holiday Inn Express, which is actually quite nice. It's kind of like a Red Roof Inn Plus, about that quality, but maybe a little bit nicer. So don't let the name fool you. Probably like I'd say like a 2.5, 3-star hotel, which is decent for like, I'm not living in luxury, or I'm just kind of like visiting for a purpose. So whatever, I'm there at the front desk for like 40 minutes, and I'm like, all right, so they're like, the other one's like maybe about 10, 15 minutes across town, but of course I don't have a car. The situation's already been confusing. The other party, like the other part of the party, is already there, so I don't want to confuse things where I'm being picked up in 2 different places, around we're dispatching from different places. So I just paid. So essentially I paid for the room twice. It was like $491. I had paid like 3 weeks prior, and then there's surge pricing, because I'm like, it's the day of, so it's like $600 and whatever dollars. So I'm there, and I'm like, you can't just transfer, and they're like, well, no, you can't do that because we're on different systems, and the hotels are like by 2 different groups, and you went through like some type of like travel hospitality group, whatever. Of course you call them, it's like all like Indian people. They act like, oh yeah, we'll handle it, no problem. And then every time you call, it's either a different person, you got to re-explain it, or it's the same person and he pretends like he doesn't know what's happening. Just a disaster, which continued even as I got back, like up to a few days ago. And then I was just like, I just called my Discover, and I was like, you know what, you just have to, I paid for this twice, you can clearly see the days and that I already paid. Another time I made sure to use the same card. I was like, just push this charge off, and they're gonna investigate it. And I've done it before, so it should stick. They've already pushed the $491 off. I hate to do that, but whatever. So, yeah, so there's that. The funny part about my trips, so whatever, we get a little bit of quality time in, just like hanging, because I haven't seen her in years. We talk on the phone every now and again, but I'm not great with the phone because my job is phone based. So like, I'm not great about like calling people and having like 2-hour long conversations. Probably part of the reason why I lost the girl from St. Louis, even though I feel like we had at least 1 or 2 at least long form conversations every week, and then obviously talked every day, whether it was like a quick hello on the phone or text or sending memes in like Instagram or Facebook or whatever. Like, we're definitely in contact, and money was spent. Like, I broke bread and was kind and all that or whatever, and whatever, she was like, yeah, I'm not sure I like our what'd she say, our communication patterns, which she never said before, so, which usually is a dead giveaway. That's just something to say. But anyway, so yeah, there's that. We hung out a little bit. The graduation was nice. It's very Texas-y, Bible Belt-y, prayer in the graduation, lots of references to God and all that, which is, I'm cool. I believe whatever, but I can see why someone who, if they don't believe, or if they're, say, like agnostic or whatever, why that would be off-putting. But it was cool. It was cool. One thing you notice immediately down there is like everybody, it seems, is big. But whatever. We're in the South. You know what it is. So whatever. My whole thing is like, I came down there for a mission. I seriously doubt that I'll be seeing her unless she like comes to me or she's up here or something like that. I seriously doubt that we'll be visiting in that way again, because that's like more than 3 strikes and you're out. And what I've noticed, it's funny how the cosmos works over, because somebody said recently being unassuming, it doesn't pay. What ends up happening, you would think people are like, oh, Disciple, he's always kind and he always like, keeps his word and blah, 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 blah. I'm not going to do him greasy or whatever, but being unassuming. So this is what I think happened, right? Because like, I tried to talk to her and I'm like, I was obviously annoyed, but I tried to like very much temper. I'm very like slow to anger and all that, but she was defensive immediately because she knew I had cause to be upset. And I'm like, wait, why did you leave me? Like, I thought we were together, whatever. And she's like, well, I'm not responsible for everybody and da-da-da, whatever. And like all this. And like, basically, I think what happened, based on what she was saying and through all the gobbledygook, I didn't even belabor the conversation because it was going nowhere. She was trying to do the thing where like, you crowd somebody out by just keep talking so they can't really get a word in edgewise, even if what you're saying doesn't make any sense or it's just a bunch of jibber jabber. I think what happened, because these are what I call like old school women, and not to mention she's like one of those people that like talks about everybody behind their back all the time. So she told me plenty about them, even on the trip when we had idle moments, back at the pizza joint after the commencement and all that. I think once they got there, they were just riding her and they're like, all right, let's get out of here. Like, he's a guy, he can figure it out type of thing. That's the gist I get from it. And, they don't know me. It's just her and her mom. Now, you would think that her mom would step in and say like, no, we can't leave Disciple. But again, people do strange things via like herd mentality and whatever else. And I think for her, she was just like, he'll figure it out, and he's only gonna get so upset because I know how a Disciple is. He's gonna forgive me in no time or whatever. So whatever, we get back there, I get my Chinese back in my room, and I was like binge watching The Industry, and damn it, when I tell you that was the best part of the trip in a lot of ways, was in the hotel. So whatever, after that, I take the how did I get to Fort Worth? I'm trying to remember if I took a Lyft. Obviously, it's all on my phone, or if I took a bus. I took the bus from Fort Worth to Houston, so I'm pretty sure I took a Lyft because it was like close enough. I don't think I took two. Damn, the memory is not memorying like the way that it used to. I'm pretty sure that I took that I took a Lyft to get out of. Yeah, I took a Lyft. Yeah, I took a Lyft out of there because to get to Fort Worth, it was like reasonable, especially because it wasn't during a surge period. It was like, instead of being like say like $90 or something like that, it was more like 60 something. So it was like tenable, right? So like, if I took a bus, it would be like $40 worth. But you have the comfort of like, not being on a smelly bus with a bunch of people, whatever. So yeah, I took a Lyft to Fort Worth and then saw like, who has enduringly, for better or worse, become my best female friend, despite like all the storyline and everything like that. And I stayed with her and her wife and her mom. We had a good old time. Chilled with her. Funny to say, her stepsons. And we had a good old time. Watched some Creed, hung out, talked about the good old days or whatever. And I was there for like 3 or 4 days. I worked a couple of days there from my room. It was nice seeing her mom, who just had neck surgery. Her birthday's coming. Actually, my friend, my bestie, her birthday's coming up in 8 days. She's gonna be 45, which is crazy. I've known her since she was 18. And yeah, so that part was good. No qualms or whatever. And while I was there, I just left. I left a nice birthday present for her. So that's handled. I don't have to remember that in 8 days or whatever. And then I took the Greyhound. I took the Greyhound to Houston, and of course Houston, you get all get all sauced up, and I don't mean sauced up in terms of drinking, but lathered up internally, let's just say, because the women there are fine, and they held up as it always does. It's this is the 3rd or 4th time I've been to Houston now, and stayed at my what essentially is my mentor's son, but I've known him since he was 12. And he's going to be 41 in a couple months. So that's how, these are all long-term friends. These aren't people that I just, Johnny come latelys or whatever. And stayed there. Had a good old time. He has a new luxury apartment. He was in one before, but he accidentally forgot to renew. But he's no longer in the Galleria area of Houston. Now he's in Midtown, but it's a really nice apartment. All the appointments there, really nice gym and everything, swimming pool, outdoor party area. He has his own patio and everything, really, really nice. And we had a good old time. Went out a couple nights, actually I think probably 3 nights. the women there are just amazing. But obviously, you have all these delusions of grandeur as I pass by my house. You have all these delusions of grandeur, like, oh, I might scoop something. I mean, low key, I did 3 years ago to a friend who's like still a friend. I mean, she's in Phoenix, Arizona, and has had a child since we met. But like, you know, we had a little thing for a while, and especially it was like much needed in that year after, you know, my ex broke things off or whatever. But yeah, plenty of nice women. I saw them curving the hell out of fellas at this place called Fancy, which is like this really nice upscale lounge. It's funny, one guy who I saw there 2 years ago on my long road trip when I picked this up, the BMW, and he's like, oh, you came from Mississippi again? Which wasn't the case. It was the other way around. I was like going to Mississippi. And, you know, but he recognized me. Not even in our party, but he just happened to be at the club and he recognized me like immediately. He hadn't seen me in 2 years. That was pretty funny. I was kind of inappropriately dressed because, like, you know, I dress like New England preppy casual with like my polo button-ups and stuff like that, or my J. Crew, like, you know, pullover sweater or whatever. And I probably do need to upgrade my my sportswear just for casually going out. It also kind of makes you look younger too, right? So one thing about my wardrobe is like I have like a vast wardrobe just because I don't throw anything away, but I also buy my clothes kind of timeless. I do, you know, weave in newer things here and there, but a lot of it's like you couldn't tell from like the last like 15, almost 20 years, because I take care of my stuff or whatever, and yada yada. And you know, a polo is a polo is a polo, or a button up is a button up, an Oxford is an Oxford. But anyway, very expensive trip. No ladies, which is probably good, right? Doesn't Houston and like Atlanta have like some elevated like cases of like herpes and AIDS and gonorrhea and syphilis and whatever else? Not that I'm just out here just you know, wantonly or indiscriminately just banging whatever. I'm not even doing that here at home. But you know, thank the Lord for small mercies, right? And while I was there, a couple other meetings. So I think I told you my work colleague, we'll call him K, who got fired a couple weeks ago. I met him down in Houston. My other work colleague, M, we'll call her M, I met her down in Dallas-Fort Worth. Both were just kind of like, really for just like a couple hours, like one-time stanzas. I wish I had more time with them, especially M. She was like, oh, I wish you had more time down here. And she said there was actually like a black-owned comic store down there that she wanted to show me, because she's into, even though she's like 52, 53, she's into comic books and stuff too. She works with me at my company, my main, you know, financial broker-dealer firm. And she's become a really good friend, though she, even though she's married and wants to like be done with her husband, and she likes me and stuff. Obviously, I'm not doing anything inappropriate, and dislikes the fact that I'm hung up on my ex, which, you know, I get it. But she's a very good friend, and we had some barbecue at this spot there. So I was able to hit all my marks, and then a good friend of mine called G, we went to DR a couple of years ago. I met him down in Houston. Got quite a nice photo that's getting quite good reviews. So I use my IG basically as like kind of like a preamble to like a dating service. So you wouldn't believe in my DMs the amount of like girls, like random and friend of a friend and otherwise, who are like, hey, what's up with you, whatever. Now I don't bite, you know, like I used to when I was younger, because a date, especially if it's like just going to be like a milk toasty date with a girl that you just kind of about, you're talking like $150, $200 a crack, right? So I don't take every date, and, you know, some of them, you know, you try to like, you know, breadcrumb them and talk to them just via text, just until you reach an opening or you're like, all right, I think I want to talk to her. But some of them get frustrated and they're like, well, actually one of them blocked me because she was in Dallas, Fort Worth, and I was supposed to see her down there, and she was upset that I didn't come out to this fair to see her. But she's also like one of those like nonchalant people where it's like, now her pattern of communication, I'm trying to hit her up so we can have a steady stream, so like I can, because I don't know this place like that. And then afterwards I was like, you know, basically the fair was over. It was like from 6 to 9. It was like on a Sunday too, which Sundays, no matter where I am, I just like to just chill. And then she was like, I'm no longer interested, and then blocked me on Instagram. I think I still have contact with her on, you know, cell phone, but I haven't bothered. And, you know, we met in New York City, like in Brooklyn, like a year and a half ago. And then we've been kind of planning, like whenever we're in close proximity of each other, whatever, that we'd see each other. And like, you know, she lives in Dallas, and she wants me to just come out there. And actually just like maybe like a month or so, or less than a month, she's like, yeah, I think I'm coming back to New York, and I'm going to come to the Catskills, and we should have like a romantic weekend in the Catskills. And I'm like, all right, cool, bet. New York is like not that far from me, whether it's upstate or the city or whatever. But this was kind of like the preamble to that. So like whether this went well or bad, I guess would determine if that it would happen. Though I kind of sense she was just throwing that out there. She's like one of those girls that wants you to outlay a great deal of effort and money to kind of get her going. She's not really going to meet you halfway. So, because apparently she's like married before, and even though she's a bit younger, like, I don't know, like 32 or something, and wants like princess treatment. Like if you see her post on Instagram, she's basically like the classic like overpraise herself type, but she's interesting. But interesting if she gives the proper effort. Like she's not like, oh, let me break my back and open my wallet or whatever. So, you know, whatever. She blocked me, but just because I didn't come out and meet her at the fair. But the way that things were kind of brewing, it was like I would just kind of go there on blind faith almost, and then I may or may not see her there. And much like my other friend, she would just be like, okay, oh my bad, you know, I was with my friend, because she was with her homegirl, and she's like, oh, we just got our wires crossed, like, you know, we can meet up tomorrow. And I'm like, damn, I could have just stayed home. So like my whole thing is like, once you confirm that you're there and exactly where your coordinates are and everything like that, I'll come and see you. And whatever, she didn't do that. And then once we caught up with each other, it was like done. It was like 9 o'clock, which isn't really late, especially when, you know, I didn't have to work the next day necessarily. But whatever, you know, again, I look at some of these things as like God's protection. Much more to talk about and a lot going on in the world, right? We got like gerrymandering going on. We got the Carmelo Anthony trial, you know, guilty, which, I mean, I won't tell you my opinions on that. You might not agree, or you might be surprised. I'll talk about that another time perhaps. We've got the Chow situation with the guy who apparently the kid, it turns out, was like the reverse. So he didn't present a gun, but he thought he was unarmed, but he actually had a gun on him. But the kid was running away. He wasn't attacking anyone. He apparently didn't steal anything either, and shot him in the back, and he was still acquitted. Crazy world. And obviously we have another like non-ceasefire, like, or a fake ceasefire between like you know, with Israel and is it like on the Gaza Strip? But I'm like losing track. Is it with Palestine, or is it with geez, I forget the name of the ruling body in Palestine. It's not Al Qaeda, but geez, I can't remember their name. I'm just kind of spitballing this off I shouldn't say spitballing, but I'm doing this off of memory. But you know what I'm talking about. Like their ruling body has a name, not Ayatollah, but I just can't. I'm drawing blank right now. So anyway, there's like apparently a ceasefire, but it's like not really a ceasefire. So a lot going on in the world. Gas down there is cheaper because, like, you know, Texas pumps its own oil, so they're like in around the 360 range, whereas up here in New England we're like at like 410, 415. I have seen a couple stations that are like $3.99 and 9/10 or whatever, so $4. So a lot going on, but I'll save that for another time. I'm at the gym. I'm gonna burn some additional calories and go Spurs. The Lord is faithful. Stay with me. God bless.